certainly have got that confidence. Right now, at the top, it is a 44-point differential. It is pretty huge, to say the least. It's more than some teams have got in total already, and that's the lead that Influence Kevin have into first place. Back over to Erangel, coming in for match number 4 today.
S2G, second place though still. I mean, that 44 point differential is probably the crazy thing, but that's only because Influence Kevin have been the most consistent team out of any of these teams. I think that if you look at any of the others beneath them, there has been pop-off performances from every single different team in this lobby, finding points where they can, when they can, and that's the most important thing to look at. Influence Kevin, on the other hand, they've just been putting up points all the time, and I think this is a team that I would say at this point, definitely going through to our grand finals. We'll definitely see them there representing Brazil. You know, 7WG, he'll be happy with that, absolutely. And I bet he wish he could be here right now commentating over on Group Red.
Well, sometimes just doesn't go your way, but what can you do? Still,
where's
I'm sure
my
they'll be very
teams at?
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
come on, guys, get it together.
Yeah. Come back,
please. Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm sure there's
2019 vibes.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some hidden talent over in the UK, and if it needs be that I put together a team from the UK, hit me up. We'll get something going. Let's drop it to PMCO. Let's get this. Let's get this ball rolling.
And we'll,
I will message the entirety of the UK. Come on, let's do this. But yeah. Heading over towards the western side of the map is our first circle. Again, I was going to say this last game before everything started popping off in a massive way, but if I have any advice to these players at the moment with these new circle settings, with the PMGC format, and with the way these teams are currently figuring out this lobby, I want to see more teams picking out the center spots within this lobby, picking out some of these high priority compounds and battling out for them. You know, Mad Bulls had a real good chance at winning that last game, but instead they stuck around the edge side of that circle, and that's what they're used to. It's what they're good at. However, at this point in time, I think they need to change up their game plan because they were so close to taking up that position that I8 held towards that. I think it was the 6th shift on the circle, but they waited too long to make that movement. This is literally playing chicken.
Oh, wait. That wasn't...
That's me.
Hey. That wasn't part of the... Whoa.
Come on.
Give that point back.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
You know, that's
they were
just
having such a good time, and he was doing so well.
Yeah. That's like everyone playing with water guns, and then someone pulls out the BB gun. It's totally unacceptable. Like, you're not playing the same game as us.
Yeah, it's just not okay. Like...
That hurts.
It's like freezing your paintballs.
Whoa. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Have
you come up against that?
Only the once, but
only the one
they got
time.
kicked out fairly swiftly.
Yeah, that just sounds like actual bullets.
It's just projectile impact.
Small cannonballs.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it's horrible. It's awful, but that's exactly how it felt just then, you know.
Amazing. Anyway, I think there was plans to do paintballing at PMGC one time. Yeah, I can't remember properly, but I'm not sure if that happened or not. I think there was a championships where we saw one of the teams go do paintballing. I think it was one of the Brazilian teams, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh, I can't rack my head around it, but I'm sure I'll find it at some point.
There's a couple of paintball places in Jakarta.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just searched it.
So basically, it's just going to be me going, so, anyone want to go paintballing? Don't freeze your paintballs, though. Anyway, I think...
I will be putting your paintballs in the microwave before we start.
You will be basically playing with just paint shooting out the front of your gun.
Just splattering.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, looking at the map again, centering up probably over towards Gatka. I mean, main Gatka MTech is currently holding that, but losing a player early on does not support you very well, considering that Gatka is an area where you need to hold more than just one area the majority of the time, which is where it gets a little bit more rough, right, John? So I think for MTech Storm, it might be a case of just basically singling out one of these compounds and then holding that one down yourself. I mean, you don't have as much control, you don't have as much information gathering, but at least it will lead you to a late game performance.
R8 in North George, we saw LGD try and move up and guard out that eastern side before over in Georgia Pole. Will they be looking to do that again with the circle as it is? They know that R8 most likely going to have to break out this way. So potential to try and guard that out, or they could head further south themselves for LGD. Titan on the east side will have to move west from Milta. 4 rivals, as we're on board with right now, in Rozhok, who will have to shift a little bit south, but they are in this first circle, so they've got a lot of time to figure it out.
Yeah, 4 rivals certainly need to figure something out at least. Being in 15th place with 31 points, it is not going well for them whatsoever. R8 also kind of throwing away their Sandhawk opportunities with only one of those a day, where it's probably the most in conflict for those random wins, those random chicken dinners that you might be able to pick up. And dropping there with S2G, I feel is starting to become a bad idea. With Mongnai being open, that's certainly a position you can hold. And I mean, you even look towards our angle right now, you might not be able to see the map on your feed, but over towards this western side of the map, yellows on the coast are completely open, which means the Mad Bull's rotation up towards the northern side is completely free, as is LGD down towards that south. A lot of these teams grouping up towards the east is maybe unideal. I mean, BTR currently holding Yaz with Influence Kemen also in that area. I mean, you're sharing that position. Do you have to? Maybe not. Is it a very influential position? Yes. But there's other areas on the map that you could head over towards and save yourself a lot of trouble in the long run.
S2G really like Ruins. I mean, why not? They've had good experiences there today. Hovering around the zone for a while. LGD still yet to leave from the crates on the south side of Georgia Pole. Just picking up that loot, snaffling it all down. The Infinity on the east side moving into the circle past Potato Hill. They're trying to seemingly get a little bit more central, potentially post up in the hills just to the east of Pachinki.
In case you're on that south side as well of Pachinki. I mean, this has become quite the hot spot whenever we do see these circles on this side. I think you're looking at a lot of these high ground spots down towards the south, even Pachinki becoming that hot spot later on if we do shift over there. I mean, we've seen a lot of those endings of the games where if you get yourself a good spot in Pachinki, you could saddle yourself up quite easily to a chicken dinner. Even Mad Bulls on that game where they had only 2 players in the center being able to pick themselves up that single chicken dinner for their own. Currently in 13th place though, unideal.
DRS playing on the fin. And will be fairly safe for now, but they are right on the edge of the circle, so if you stay here, you are committing to that edge style of play at this stage. More likely, they're going to want to look to break out a little bit further west, but you've got the Infinity who have headed in ahead of them now.
I mean, DRS did have God Tunny out wide for a long time. The rest of DRS were down towards Novorepnoye. So for them, it has been a little bit of a journey to get up here. Titans also becomes a problem, as a lot of these teams are going to start to backfill now, with Buriram also coming in, BTR leaving late from Yaz. On the other hand, Influence Kevin made a massive rotate over the top side underneath Saverni, down past box towards S2G. That's in Ruins. Killer, though, found by God Tunny. And now DRS in a little bit more of a tricky position. Again, like we're saying, Titans can backfill on this. Buriram also coming down to backfill on this. The more I say Buriram, the more I enjoy it.
It's a fun word to say. Yeah. Buriram, it's got a tempo to it. It's got a rhythm.
Yeah, love that team name. Love that team as well. Circle, probably the hardest shift we've seen all day. Probably even over the past 8 matches, I would say this is the hardest shift we've seen on the Circle. Heading down towards Sosnovka military base. A very interesting shift, and definitely sends a lot of these teams into panic mode, I would say, because, a lot of these guys have been thinking, right, we're having a lot of central circles at the moment. We can figure out which compound is the best quite early on and then play from there. But it is these Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, where a lot of that change can happen. You need to be quick on the trigger, quick on the ball to make those movements. So this is kind of cool, very fantastic. Very Pierce still in, but it's those lighthouses as well as the gas station, which could be real hotspots. This is always going to happen. Tons of action appearing on your screen as teams all make a massive migrate down towards the position on the south side of the map.
Goodness me, Enigma Galaxy really suffering. Ray-Z just rolling straight on up into Enigma Galaxy and seemingly causing enough chaos for the rest of the team to rally on through. Already a fight with Team Queso was popping off in this area, so they had their attention drawn other ways. But now the fight breaks out between actually Burdam rolling up into it as well. S2G into the mantle, into the breach against Team Queso, and Buraram further on across the hill. You have the Infinity holding in the yellows. As the nades start to fly, it is chaos. Blank, you're talking about panic. This is exactly the situation that causes it.
Yeah, Buraram made a really long rotate down from that northeastern side and now just tossing all their nades in straight away. And I think these teams expending so much utility this early on makes a lot of sense, because you know that one of these central spots right now that S2G currently is in, there's a lot of teams around you. So if you can clear one team out quickly like they did with Nigma Galaxy and then send another team packing, you have this tree line to play in. It's a very important area of the map. A lot of people underutilize it, but for S2G, they realize how important this area is. Nigma Galaxy, though, 16th place, 16th place, 11th place, and a 16th once again. Today is horrid for Nigma Galaxy, and that buffer is the only thing keeping them alive in that top 3 at the moment.
And it is not long-lived if they have that eaten away. Plenty of teams will gladly take that spot guaranteed through to the finals. But it is a matter of achieving that. Nigma Galaxy still with a lot of leeway to go. But another 16th place finish, you're right. It's not the standard that they need to be at right now.
Something needs to change, and I think, honestly, it's less of Nigma Galaxy getting worse, but more of these teams adapting to the playstyle of the lobby at the moment. I mean, Nigma Galaxy were always quite a central focused team, in which case they were getting a lot of work done in the early game, getting towards positions that were very, very high priority. But now a lot of these other teams are realizing, you know what, we can just send center and then be fairly comfortable. And Nigma Galaxy are not prepared for the amount of crashes coming their way. And I think Freak is probably the one that's holding them together a lot of times as a singular player. We do get another pretty hard shift up towards that northeast side with so much water cutting all this out. We have, you know, DRS holding on over towards farm side, this coastal area. There are some towers in this area as well to play around with, and Influence Kevin has just stayed out of the action for as long as possible. I mean, they've got a couple of knocks here and there, one elimination, trying to clear out space within the lobby, but this is one of the hardest circles to play that we have seen all PMGC.
It has been really, really difficult as well, considering the previous massive hard shift, Blank. All these teams are a little bit off kilter on these rotates, and the positioning in general of the teams will be a little bit unfamiliar. And having to shift down on a essentially 40% playable terrain circle.
Yeah. I mean, we should see Zone 4, the circle, attempt to move away from the water as much as possible. But that also has the caveat that this moves down towards Titans are playing on Sosnovka military base, which would be an unbelievable result. We're more than likely going to see this center up over towards that northern side, but because the circles are now smaller over on Erangel, you know, you are going to see still a lot of space being inside of that blue, inside of that water, in which case a lot of these teams are going to be rather playing on the edge side, and this is where edge play becomes a lot more beneficial towards yourself, because everyone inside the circle at the moment have made this mad dash in, and now going to be fighting off against one another tooth and nail, as if this game was more towards the 25-minute mark.
LGD looking to sweep around towards the north. They will be in the queue behind R8. Who seemingly should be aware of this. Bandar hops out the vehicle. A little bit spread right now. If a big crash comes through onto one of these locations, R8 do just lose a player. But this reposition coming through from R8 looks to be good to set up for a little bit of a scrap now. Behind the shack, taking up position. CCC wants to put those nades over. Suki as well needs to push in. They need to move away from this circle. SK-Ton looks to put the bullets down. Prestige as well, posted up atop the hill. D7 not quite getting the knock onto CCC. Will be allowed to skirt away. But now the fun starts. They have to kick it into gear for the fight, pushing on through. And speaking of, Mad Bulls moving up to the compound with Box. Box have not had great success in holding on to these things right now, and Mad Bulls are going to make sure that that continues. A nade through from Bensu looks good, but they are going to be trading it 1-for-1 on the flushes right now. Break falls down, Bensu in for the challenge, taken low, but nade in hand could turn it all around in a split second. Skillses seems to have been able to dodge it. into the bathroom, out through the window. Tree looking for cover. Will not be able to find it as Effect handles his one. And Box yet again getting put back on the back foot. Bensu pops the heel, but 3 Mad Bulls on the inside. It's going to be a lot to handle.
I mean, this is one of the first engagements we've seen Mad Bulls being able to take toe-to-toe a 4v4, and they look pretty strong, as we would expect them to be. Skills is going for the pre-fire, Bensu struggling, and Effect sends the grenade from the back, and that should finish them off there with Box Gaming now out. Mad Bulls pick themselves up 4 eliminations for their troubles, but they still have further to go through the Infinity, as well as S2G, up towards that northern side. With a circle shift like that as well, it is now becoming more and more about BTR, as well as Buradam, who have managed to find themselves some beautiful spots over towards the coast.
They've been hunkered down there for quite a while, Blank. I mean, they kind of just sent in there and hoped, and it's paid off this time around. The Infinity, I think the bottom of the cliffs are safer, and they might just be right about that. S2G on the western side will have a coastline.
S2G played a beautiful game today, honestly. It has been crazy, the performance they've been able to put up. And again, a lot of that comes down towards patience, picking up big zones, and then not taking too many fights. We see more of it being now that they pick up those big kill counters towards the end of the game, massive eliminations coming through at those last 5 minutes. So not trying to anger the bear that is the rest of the lobby as much anymore, taking a much more tactical approach to it, and using that pinpoint accuracy that they're so well known for as a team, with the team firing as well, to their advantage. It's really nice to see a team adapt like this from day 1 to day 2. Also, with them being so down bad yesterday as well.
Yeah. I mean, they came into today in 11th place, and right now they're ahead of everybody else except for Influence Kemen. 44 points between them and the top spot, sure, but 22 points between second and third place. S2G have streaked a lead that you would not have called with that first day's performance.
Buradam still holding a decent spot here. Again, if there's anything to go by that Miramar match we watched yesterday, where they're on the high ground, they did struggle slightly holding 2 separate zones of locations. Skills's, unfortunately, gets knocked down on his approach. And I think for Mad Bulls now, down on the south coast, things are getting rough for them. Silas even finding another on their side. Should be Mad Bulls in a really horrible spot now. 2 players up, 1 player knocked, and you see Skills is there right next to the players. So very unlikely that he'll get back up on his feet, leaving Mad Bulls at just the 1. I think this could have been a case of a decision to move towards that northern side and try and stay out the action as long as possible, because it was most likely you were going to see all the players on the coast. I mean, if we pulled up the map feed right now, you would see basically a caterpillar of color across the rock faces.
Oh my goodness me, Razy. The happiest of feet right now did get spotted across the way. I think that might have been from Entex Storm. It might have been from Skills's. We're finally looking for the shots. Zagon XIA actually managed to make landfall and take shots over their way. Ooh, that's bad news for Entex Storm. Allowing Aegon XIA all the way up there. That allows Razy more power over this gulf that will need to be breached. S2G will have to send around the headland after this shift.
I mean, you can see on the map feed on the right side of your screen there just exactly what I was talking about. I mean, it's a crazy rough circle to be playing in. Titans, though, able to get off that southern coast up towards the cliff face itself. There is a few positions where you can start to try and climb up the ladder that is the mountain, but it is quite difficult, especially with a lot of teams watching down that way. BTR has Jem Foster holding out towards the west, which is great. I like this play. They're having a lot of players put focus over towards the eastern side. Jem Foster isn't necessarily looking for eliminations or knocks. He's informational based. The rest of BTR looking to hold on to the eastern coast.
Ooh, Ayala backed off from going for the sprays over to S2G's position, but they are going to have to move now. The circle is shunting. And where can they go? They're going to have to swing in, maybe even crash onto LGD. We have to wait and see, but Razy down low. Oh, he's knocked on the downswing as well. S2G, they've been so powerful in these circles so far, but the last player, TZ, gets felled, leaving 3 for S2G as Razy takes the tumble.
Entex Storm out, 13th place. Team Queso going for an absolute wild ride of their lives up towards Buradam and directly past S2G.
Mr. Bones in charge of that wild ride. It is really not fun on the skeleton charge there. Silas wants one of his own. And this is the difficult move I was saying. I mean, what can you do? It's almost better to send into the water and try and swim around that headland, but Newsy's there, waiting. He's been there for a long, long time. Silas needs something special to be able to win this fight against Newsy. Won't be able to pull it out the bag. S2G dismounted. 7 of limbs, still a good card.
I mean, S2G had the right idea of it for a long, long while there. Unfortunately, the circle shifts away from them. They have to move down. But Team Case are coming their way. They all started spraying, stood up, and basically opened up sightlines for so many other teams, in which case 2 of the players got knocked. Silas is like, goodness me, I just need to send out of here. Team Rocket this over towards the other side of the coastal edge. And I think for them, it just all comes crumbling down because they get a little bit caught off guard. R8 taking shots. Influence came in, slowly have worked their way down from that northern side, but Federal going down, one of the clutch players from that team, is a little bit scary for them. And with them being so split up, it's going to be difficult to pull that player back up into action.
Buradam on the cliff sides as well, playing on the edge. I'm currently counting about, I think it's 5 teams playing on those cliffs right now. Newsy down there as well for the Infinity. A lot of shots lighting up towards 4 rivals here. Really difficult position on that northwest side, so do not blame 4 rivals for taking a lot of punishment there. DRS as well struggling to get away from those docks.
Yeah, we always assumed this would be the circle that would take place, so not too much difference is happening in terms of where the circle is playing. But R8, Influence Kevin both have to make their way in. BTR are really looking good this game. And again, Jem Foster has played a very patient game, which is absolutely necessary. Tiger from Buradam as well, hitting these beautiful nades off the top side onto the areas where you would assume most of these players would be at. Only one more nade left, though, and he has to make this one count, and he's in the complete wrong direction.
Yeah, not going to happen there. We'll just blow up in the middle. But that does give you info that there's no one there. Still, not going to act on that. I think he had some steps down there. And we'll just be suppressing the line. It is a really difficult position there. You can see that overhang on the rock. It means that there's a lot of safety. So unless you cook your nade just right, you're not going to get the damage.
Yeah, I still think the Molotov as well was maybe just a little bit off target. I think that's the last player from Influence. Kevin's still up now in law, waiting on his lonesome. BTR, again, really well played on this coastal side, but soon they'll have to deal with Titans. We're working their way up. Like I said, there is availability to move up towards this coastal side. It takes a while, and it looks like Titans are just taking their time, looking for the best moment. But whilst waiting too long, they've been spotted now by I8, who have had to move their way around that coast as well.
Buradam up to 5 eliminations on the game so far. Probably one of the most mobile teams right now in terms of their positions. They're all on these plateaus with some of the ridgelines to play around. Aegon XA really not in that same sort of position, and we saw Titan as well playing up the vertical sheer cliff face that exists there. Bigatron potentially one of the few teams that can contest, but LGD out in the open, if they can stay alive, they're going to have a massive advantage moving into the later circles. Newsy finally dispatched.
Yeah, for LGD, it's actually a really good spot that they're currently holding. They're in a ditch. They have some smokes out, some vehicles that are providing them cover, and it is open ground. So when this circle, and it will do, starts to shift away from the coastal side a little bit, these teams are going to have to start coming out from underneath this cliff face right into the purview of LGD. The main thing they have to be careful of at the moment is R8 sneaking up towards their position, sitting on the back of the buggy, which means they can shoot down towards LGD with the extra elevation it provides. It's an interesting ending towards the circle, and LGD have to play their cards right. These nades, though, were always going to be an issue, and they've not kept R8 at bay enough, and with 2 down, life is looking very difficult for the teams from LGD.
Yeah, it's not good for them right now. Ooh, another flush, another knock. That brings them 2 active. On the far side, though, and there's shots from Buradam, who are going to slow R8's approach down. Sure, the nades can get in, but making this cross for R8 still seems nigh on impossible with everybody looking out their way. SK-Ton, if you'd have just kept the Mini 14 or had more bullets there, might have been able to get that knock, but 2 players from LGD, their little blue tails staying alive.
Yeah, I mean, it is the smallest of divots here. And again, that is what the buggy can sometimes afford you. And it was a really good play from R8. They set up the smokes in front of the buggy, popped their player on the back with the most amount of nades, and then he just tossed him over the back because he could use the third-party perspective to just kind of look down towards where LGD were and perfectly place these nades from the maximum distance, essentially. So it's really, really well done. I love that play coming through from the guys of R8. It should be a good nade from Luxy. It does enough damage to keep DRS in dire straits at the moment.
That circle shift, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's keeping actually quite a lot of the coastline of this circle. R8 with a mad crash. Oh, one run down. Traded 1 for 1. MVM has to hit the deck straight away as Buradam are looking over this way. 2 players from R8 get bonked out there. Prestige at the back was playing backstop. Smoke needs to bloom. They need to force this res for LGD. It will not be possible otherwise. Buradam's crater, again, just so powerful, but they're going to have to leave it soon enough. Prestige mounts up for one last go around. Can he make it? Can he make the spray down? MVM has other ideas. Up to the vehicle, taken low. Prestige looking to stay alive for R8 and take down LGD's central stronghold of a ditch. Prestige burning, but not feeling the heat just yet. Wipes the sweat off the brow, backs it up, wants more of the spray, and takes the whole slice.
Oh, the fact that he was able to survive that is actually incredible and get all the way through with R8 also looking down towards them. Titans dispatch the guys from I8, pick up 5 eliminations. Just about a minute ago, these guys were only on 0. So Titans have done a good job. Now, Jen Foster's stepping up. This guy has been a major player for BTR so far. He has 3 players to contest with. He has remained very silent this entire time, which has been very cool. Takes a huge amount of damage, though, from Sky Only, who sent wide for Buradam. And now BTR have to respond. They cannot be passive in this late game.
Titan with 4. Buradam rezzing back up to 4 as well. Bigitron with Jen Foster down, acting with 3. And the wild card of Law from Influence Kevin to bring us up. 4 teams total remaining blank. No one's making this push just yet, but the next circle gonna pop soon.
Jen Foster did a fantastic job to stay alive this long and also unknown to the guys from Buradam. Steps up a little bit too early though, in which case the player from Buradam already sent wide, had spots on towards him. And now Buradam looking for a really big game here, finding at least one from Titans in Teak, now looking to take out the rest. 3 players for BTR, slowly sidling their way up towards this eastern side of the map. Influence Kemen still with 1 player in the circle, staring out into the blue to make sure as little of him is visible as possible. And again, this is a top 4 from Influence Kemen. They'll take the points where they can.
This is more coastline still in the circle. Given the way it was falling, this is kind of crazy. It still has Bigotron's coastline in there on the east side. I think Titans still have got a little bit of space to play around with as well. But they'll need to be careful about how they back off if they have to go for these engagements. Buradam really want to control this and take Titan out the equation. Kangzo got a little bit bold there, but fortunately doesn't fall for it.
It was a great shot to take a look at exactly everything that's going on. Law down there, currently on the downhill, will have to move into the circle, and he'll become visible in the process, but he's lived a long time, and I'd say he's already done a great job for his team to get this many points and this far. BTR would love to translate on this game, but Buradam have played a fantastic 2-2 split throughout the majority of this. Axa also goes down, but Kengzo remains on the spray for a little bit too long, and this is an opportunity now for BTR to try and capitalize. Zuxi doesn't hit those shots, and he will go down to the play zone.
Influence Kemen eliminated 4th place, 1 elim. Not the biggest points total, but still a podium, and it's good news to keep that tally going, to keep that lead extending. With S2G already down, they can just keep that buffer rolling on up, but Titan looking to put a dent in it here. Unfortunately, Buradam controlling every single move that they make. Bigotron wanting to do the same to the team in green as Titan lose 1.
Sky Only right now is really the key to the victory of this game from Buradam. He has to keep BTR at bay all on his lonesome whilst Buradam deals with the remaining players from Titan. The fact that he's able to remain in that position for so long has been so good, but Luxy, who is a long-range specialist, finds at least one of them, but is instantly refragged there from Sky Only. Once again, this guy is putting in the work for the rest of the team.
Brings BTR down to 2. Zuxi looking to suppress that rotation, but it's not going to work on out. 3 players is the maximum. We're saying, sorry, Buradam back up to 4. I didn't realize they were going to be able to get that res, but the zone is closing. It will crunch everybody in. Titan will be the first to fall. They have no way to get up here in time. And they will be unfortunate with it. The nades are there though, and Puncher might be able to do a lot of damage to Tiger. Takes the challenge, takes the fight, and actually
That's
wins that
bad.
out. There's a way up, that's a route. If they can win the fight out with Kengzo, there's a nade up top, but it's a little bit long. Kengzo wants the engagement as well. Can they just stick this res? I don't know. Titan playing with Puncher there. Teak out in the zone.
That could be
Testing everything. This is a cook. Will it be good? Up a little bit too high. And a second one to follow it up. Kengzo looks for the challenge. Puncher caught in the barrel. Doesn't go down on the first peak. Kengzo looks for a second. Puncher will be burnt on out, and that is going to be the end of Titan's roll. But Buram now turn their attention to the two remainders of Bigatron.
4v2 here. Sky Only completely the MVP of the entirety of this match. Finds another one over towards BTR. Just Misery remains.
And he will be spotted out in the open. It is going to be Buram rolling it on down. Celebrations for the second Erangel of the day. A great performance from Buram, playing that coastline perfectly. They controlled LGD on the north. R8 caught in the mincer. And Bigatron, the final victims.